Brakatha Yahweh, Brakatha Yahweh Shai, Brakatha Yahweh, Brakatha Yahweh Shai, Brakatha Yahweh, Brakatha Yahweh Shai, Bahasara Kahakodash. I also want to give double honors to our elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone Ruel, as well as peace and blessings, health and wellness to the house of David the elect. All right, I was a high spirit winning lawyer. All right, and today I want to go into a topic entitled, I had to read these two books before I came into the truth. I had to read these two books before I came into the truth. And the two books that I had to read was Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, as well as George Orwell's 1984. Now, what was interesting about these two books is that I had to read them before I found out the truth. All right. So at that point, I knew about secret societies. I just learned about that a year prior. But going into the new school year, we had a summer reading list. And the two books that I had to read for my summer reading list was Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and George Orwell's 1984. Okay. And what's interesting, like I said, I had to read these books the year of me coming into the truth. But at that time of reading the books, I didn't know the truth. You know, I was told a few years prior that I was an Israelite, but I didn't find any information outside of that. Okay? But I think it's very interesting that these were the two books that was like a mandatory read for the summer, based off me being within the school system. Okay? So you had Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and you also had George Orwell's 1984. And I'll start with 1984 because, you know, me reading certain things about, you know, the secret society of the elites, you know, I had to be careful with my wording. When I read the book 1984, it captivated me because I knew it was real. Although it was fiction, I knew that it was real. Okay? I knew that it was real. Okay? And you know, coming into the truth and hearing the apostles mention it, you know, it makes me think, like, you know, hey, going back to prophecy, some of us, hey, the scripture says the devil should throw you in prison 10 days. You know, be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. And some of us will be detained, you know, in detention centers. Okay? George, in the book George Orwell 1984, all right, Winston, I think his character's name was Winston, which just took place during World War II. And it was showing you in the book that basically, because he worked for the propaganda, like they purposely had mixed propaganda to confuse the masses. All right, they had something called Newspeak. Mind you, this book was written like 1943, or during World War II. And it was basically a blueprint to the New World Order. All right, now, although it did not take place in 1984, we know that it's taking place now. Okay? All right, and they showed you all the distractions that the government would give to the masses just to keep the masses confused from basically the true agenda of the elites. And you had the thought police, the thought crime, you had double speak, Newspeak? They actually took words out the dictionary. The child was against them because the child belonged to the state. You know, so the child turned on them, you know. It was actually an interesting book, but we know it wasn't just some fictional novel. It's crazy. All right. And long story short, you know, ultimately he was tortured. They used his biggest fears against him. All right. They used his freaking biggest fears against him. You know what I mean? And unlike him, hey, the true elect would not cave in. You know? But it's just funny that was the mandatory. It's not funny, it was the spirit. And it's the reason why I had to read that book, 1984. Because, hey, brothers might go through a similar lot. You know? I might go through this same lot, man. You know? But going to the next book, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, The book Frankenstein was written by Mary Shelley, and years into this truth, I reflect on that book, and I understand clearly why I had to read 1984. But you know, I only speculated why I had to read, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. But I believe now fully that through the Spirit that it was for a similar reason in this truth, that we were the Frankenstein. And lo and behold, you know, I Googled Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and I said black people. And I realized the book was intentionally written as a metaphor for Israelites in America during slavery. Right, during it after slavery. Frankenstein was not the monster. The scientist was Frankenstein. The monster was the creature. But one thing I remember, a couple things that I remember in the book, and just bear with me because it's been well over a decade since I read the book. One thing I remember that the scientists used science and witchcraft to create the creature. And I also remember the creature escaping the campus, the college campus in which he was created. And I also remember the creature learning the language of the people who created him, and ultimately finding out that he was more brilliant than the people who created him. You see? And you know, I had concluded that they was talking about so-called black people. I heard the apostles say it. I heard other speakers outside of the truth say it. But I didn't know that it was literally intentionally written for Jake. I just knew in the spirit it was written for Jake. But you can actually Google Frankenstein black people and it should come up. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein black people. So Frankenstein was a metaphor for Jake 150 years ago, you know, 200 years ago, what they did to Jake in America. We were Esau was really the Frankenstein, and really we are the creature that Esau created in America. All right, starting in slavery. All right, to discontinue you from your heritage. All right, to break you down into the spirit of an animal. All right, have you eating out of the same container as the swine. All right, calling you boy, taking your name from you. All right, they want you to be, Esau wants you to be his monster, his creature. All right, and the book was written 1880 after slavery. And I know one thing that happened after slavery was this big propaganda that Jake was a criminal, because after slavery, you know, it was no more beneficial to say he was just a work animal, since that was outlawed. But the new propaganda was that Jake was a criminal. It started after slavery, and even now, you know, Esau, he used that same storyline towards Jake. He's a criminal. He's a monster. That's why he has the Lil Durks and the King Vons and the NBA Youngboy. But furthermore, still got some water. Furthermore, that's why you have the P. Diddy scandal, the P. Diddy case, the Bill Cosby case, the R. Kelly case. All right, it's not whether they did or didn't do these things. Jake has to be the face of the monster in America. Jake has to be America's monster. All right, Jake has to be America's Frankenstein. He has to be the creature that Frankenstein created. That's why it was certain interviews. I think the actor name was Nate Parker. He's the actor that directed the movie The Birth of a Nation. And I think it was Oprah that brought up a great case in which he was proven innocent, but Oprah still brought up the case. And like certain NBA players that were Jake, Oprah had a pattern. It might have been Gail, it might have been Oprah. They do the same shit, but they have a very subtle way of bringing out bad accusations against Jake. All right, whether it's certain basketball players, certain rappers, certain actors. All right, but there's a reason why they're on Esau's big ass platform, because Eve, the so-called black woman, and I believe personally, Eve, the so-called black woman, she's the handler. See, the serpent and Eve made a covenant. You see? But Eve is Jacob's handler. She's Adam's handler now. In a serpent's kingdom, Eve is Adam's handler. But she's designed to help perpetuate this belief that Jake is a monster. There was an interview, this bit, I forgot her name. She was interviewing DMX, and he was going through like a counsel with his son. His son was counseling him. I guess, you know, DMX did drugs and stuff. But the interviewer, the woman, Eve, she was doing certain subtle things to trigger DMX, and he spazzed out. And she was like, I'm not intimidated by you. But in the same breath, she purposely said something in a way that triggered him. And me having sisters and the older sister, you know, I know how Eve works. They do little shit like that, bro. But the Eve is here to perpetuate this narrative that Jake is that creature that Frankenstein created. That's why Diddy is the face of this scandal. Not no small hats, but Diddy and R. Kelly. All right. See, and the narrative has been perpetuated so long, well over 100 years. Yeah, about 150 years. They push this narrative that Jake is the monster. He's the Frankenstein. He's the monster. That we feel that way about each other, whether it's true or not. But the point is that you don't get triggered when you see an Edomite. The hairs on the back of your neck don't stand up when you see an Edomite. When you see a small head, you don't think of a baby funneler, somebody that funnels babies, but they do. You see? So Esau really forged the 12 tribes, Jake, to be Frankenstein's monster. See? And Eve perpetuates that belief that Jake is that monster. That's why, like I say, certain interviews with Oprah, and say a basketball player, actor, a rapper, she'll bring up certain cases. Because I believe it's there to perpetuate this belief. They keep Jake as the poster of being a monster, keep Jake on the forefront of being America's monster. But it was the elites, the small heads, that's behind everything. Which is another way, which is why they push, which is how they push the Planned Parenthood single mother welfare state thing. Is all rooted in Jake is an impulsive creature. He's an incompetent, inadequate father. All right, but it's okay. We'll help you raise your young, and we know the father isn't there. Because Jake is a monster, he's just some impulsive creature. Not Eve, but Jake. That's the narrative. But it's okay, we'll give you housing. Put them on board. Now, ironic that Eve has a history of getting the worst out of Jake. All right? But like street culture is Jake followed into street culture is Jake followed into the trap of saying, yeah, I'm a monster. You see? I'm Frankenstein's monster. I'm Frankenstein's creature. I need to be incarcerated. See? You see what I'm doing? YNs is nothing but Esau's little monsters, man. His little Frankensteins. You know? And this is not this speculation. They literally held these guys put up. It's sort of like these designer brands creating certain styles within their clothing brand that ridicules Jake. Like the Gucci, the designer clothing brand Gucci, had like a big lips thing. All right, but Jake wear it, or I think Nike had the shackles. You see? So they have these artists like NBA Youngboy, not to just target this nigga, it's all of them, Kodak Black. The reason why they have that crazy look and those crazy styles, that bugged out look, those are the little Frankensteins. But Esau purposely did that. He bamboozled them. And it's really showing America, see, that's the monster. Because it tells you in the scriptures that Esau, the wicked, which is Esau, is estranged from the womb. Esau can't be trusted. In the book of Job, the so-called black man, he said, I wouldn't have this man around my dogs. Because Esau knows from the beginning of time, he was that monster on the earth. He was the monster in the earth. He's that fugitive. He's that leprous freak with no melanin that's freaky. That's why in both of his kingdoms, the Grecian kingdom and the Roman kingdom, he was known to be what? Just some freaky, debaucherous savage that was in power, a base creature. So he came into power. He gaslighted us and gaslighted the world into thinking that we were the Frankenstein. That's why he made a caricature of our features. That's why he came up with the pseudoscience that said that our brains were inferior, and he made fun of our melanin, our pigment. So he had to push this narrative that really we're the Edomites as far as character and behavior. He wants to be perceived as Adam in a garden. He wants Jacob, the Israelites, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, to be Cain. So either you're a criminal or immigrant, you know, because what are they saying about the Northern Kingdom that's getting deported? What's part of the narrative? These are criminals. It's the same shit. But the real criminal, all right, runs the world, but he also runs the media. The real criminal is in control, is behind child trafficking, human trafficking. The real criminal is running the earth to shit. But if you go on Google and type up Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and you can say African Americans or black people, and it'll tell you that the book was intentionally written as a metaphor for how they treated Jake in slavery. He was like Charles White, he say a lot of times he be on point, and sometimes he don't be on point. But you know, he's a nigga, he said the African and a nigga is two different things. But in a roundabout way, he was saying the Jake that they made in America, that's a whole different person than who we were in Africa. So we were Hebrew Israelites in Africa, right? We knew we were Israelites in Africa. But they made a subspecies in America because you discontinued from your heritage. You didn't know who you were. So that's like a bastard and an anomaly right there. All right, you can't speak the language fully. All right, they've reduced you down to your lower nature. That's the monster. You know, Esau wants you to be a monster that he can control. And believe you me, this nigga looks at you like a monster. Even the local motherfuckers be. He looks at you like an animal that he has to handle. Esau has an obsession. The Edomite man, he wants to handle us, man. But also he set up Keisha to be that parole officer for the monster, to be that handler. That's why he set up that bitch Oprah and Gail, and you know, it's another woman too. But they'll get guys like, they would have a history of getting guys like DMX on their show, or just certain Jakes, and they'll say little subtle things, and they'll say something that's condescending, or they'll do little subtle things to perpetuate this narrative that we're the monsters, man. You know? Now Jake does it to himself with these damn rap videos and this drill shit. But Esau doesn't, it's the reason why he doesn't take those videos down, man. It forwards his agenda into saying, look, we have to do something about these guys. They're going to do the Southern Kingdom like how they're doing the Northern Kingdom. We have to do something about this issue. You see? But the most I had it set up to where in this sucking place that we're in this matrix, we're Frankenstein's monster, man. All right? Through propaganda, we're perceived as the monster in Esau's kingdom, man. Like I said, he wants you to be the sicko, the freak, the pervert. He wants you to be perceived as the criminal. That's why Diddy's face comes up, and R. Kelly face comes up, and Bill Cosby face comes up. And there's so much money behind putting them out as the weirdo. When we all know it's the people that they work for, all right, are the real weirdos. Is really into children, all right? Is really into babies and child sacrifice and blood drinking and demonic rituals, man. It's not that those niggas that I just named are innocent, but that you can't out Satan. You see? That's all I'm saying about that. You see? But Esau, in contrast, painted himself to be an upstanding citizen, upright man, the hero, the guy that takes down a bad guy. He depicted himself as the Most High, as the Messiah. So there isn't any negative connotations associated with the Edomite. Now he could do his wickedness in plain sight in a suit and tie. All right. But with that, I hope you brothers and sisters were edified. Once again, I want to give our honey word to Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Hakodash. I also want to give double honors to our elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone, who well, peace and blessings, health and wellness. To the house of David, the elect, Abba Baal, Kamel Shalom, Shalom.